Okay, so I got my Tailvac here all cleaned up and got the motor serviced and such. Surprisingly, it doesn't have rear bearings, it has a rear bushing. So I put some of the red and tacky grease on that because I'm still, like, I don't do a lot of bushings. So it's like I'm still not entirely sure if you're supposed to use oil or grease on them, but it does sound better than it used to. So, there's that. But, as I was working on this, I noticed that, and I'm guessing the original kind of mesh filter might have mitigated some of this, because it was fairly thick. So I noticed all the airflow was coming from right down like here, where the motor inlet is. So, this cloth bag and such is being sucked against the motor inlet, reducing, reducing the surface area from which the air is being drawn. I mean, in a typical backpack setup, it's not, the bag isn't in contact with the motor inlet, allowing it to breathe from all around. But this one clearly wasn't thought out very well. So, it's drawing all the air from just the motor inlet, and I know over time, as this machine fills up, it's going to draw the dirt right to this area, and the power drop-off would be very quick and immense. So, I designed, through Tinkercad again, this plate to force the bag away from there and actually, give it more area to breathe. So, it's easier to insert from the back here. So I just insert this underneath the bag, and that allows it to draw air from around the sides of this. Because, I mean, this doesn't fill the entire chamber, this cloth bag. So, as long as it's not sucked against the inlet like that, it can breathe. So, from what I have seen, inserting this plate into it improves the airflow at the machine here by about 23-something%. So, it's, I thought this machine would be a little bit more powerful than it is, actually, but, I did discover this machine is probably a little bit older than I had anticipated too, and as you can see, I didn't put the strap back on here, because it's my intention to use this as like a bench vacuum. Whenever I finally get like a proper workbench set up, I figured this would be a good machine to use for that, simply because, it's 6-quart bags, which are fairly large, and, yeah, August of '98. It's pretty old. It's like, I'm sure I could probably put a different motor in here, but the mounting system on here is a bit unusual, as the motor is mounted to this, it's mounted to this bottom piece here, so it's like standing upright, and then it has these big long screws that hold on to it. Yeah, very bizarre setup. But I'm going to show you guys the difference between using the machine as is and then with the adapter plate in place, and you guys should be able to see, that there is a difference between the two. So, I'm sure there's not a lot of people out there who do have a Proteam Tailvac, but I did design a second version of this, which came to me after I had already sent the STL to my printing guy. So this is what the second version of this looks like. Of course, it'll be in whatever color you decide to print this off in. But I think this one would be a little bit more open. I don't think that'll actually affect the airflow, and probably uses less material than the other one does too. But, yeah, it's like I'm still kind of learning Tinkercad. So it's like this one just kind of came to me, and it's like, oh, I think this will work better. But yeah, I'll put a link to the design in the video description if someone needs that. You have access to the STL, you just have to get someone to print that, or you can print it if you have a printer. We don't have the spacer in here currently. We're going to run it as is and just let the bag suck to the bottom of the chamber. And we'll turn this on. And there we go, plates in place. So, as you can see, it'll create a clearance and allow the machine to breathe a lot better around the sides. And we'll take a look at the electrical measurements while I have it running. So, not quite the 23% improvement, but still, it's pretty significant. And then, like I said, I'm pretty confident that we're going to have more power as the bag fills, too, since we're not limited to that small section of bag. So, it'll help sustain the power. And then let's take a suction measurement. And then here we have the original hose for here. It actually ends in 1.25 inches, and we have 1.5 inches on this end. So I also brought out the 1.5 inch hose, and of course, you know, with any stretch hose, you also have a narrower interior diameter, so that's going to reduce its performance quite a bit. But we'll attach this here, and since we have a female end, we'll just stick this little 1.5 inch adapter on here, and we'll take an airflow measurement with this. It's gonna have a bend in it no matter what, so. Not much suction loss with this type of hose. And now for fun, we'll put the 1.5 inch hose on it. Alright, 1.5 inch hose on. And there's the old number. So get that set. And we experience a slight suction loss here because, you know, this does have this little joint. So there's going to be a little bit of leakage, but I mean, you saw that there's a pretty big increase in the airflow. And since I don't have the proper attachment set for this, we're not going to do any floor head testing because I don't have the proper wands or whatever. But, you know, it's gonna make a fine bench vac, although I do think, you know, I'll probably not use this. I'll probably just repurpose this because I'm assuming this is threaded, so I'll probably put a non-stretch 1.25 inch hose on it, just so we're not as inefficient. But yeah, you know, this will certainly do, the job I expect of it, especially with that adapter plate in there. Or bag support, whatever. But yeah, it's not too bad for its wattage, but definitely not quite as powerful as my other Proteam.